What if everything you've been told about fixing your skinny fat body type is backwards? What if cardio isn't the answer? Eating less isn't the solution, and the key to finally being lean and muscular is the complete opposite of what you think. In this video, I'll show you how I went from having minimal muscle mass and excess body fat to building a lean, muscular physique, and it had nothing to do with intense cardio sessions, extreme calorie cutting, or following whatever crash diet is trending this week. I'm no genetic freak, so if you copy exactly what I did, you'll transform way faster than I ever did. You're most likely being held back by three things: thinking fat loss comes first, overcomplicating your training with way too many workouts per week, and finally ignoring the single most important factor that actually creates visible change. Speaking of visible changes, before we dive in, if you want a physique that isn't just lighter on the scale, but actually more muscular and defined, you need to understand that this transformation takes time. That's why I'm giving away my body recomposition master guide that shows you how to build muscle while losing fat effectively. Because let's be real, what's the point of trying to lose weight if you just end up looking skinnier and weaker? Grab your free copy with the link below. Here's what most people misinterpret. What's actually causing the skinny fat look in the first place? Let me guess, you've probably been told that you need to either lose weight or just do more cardio to fix your physique. You've tried cutting calories hard, you've spent excess hours on the treadmill, and you're blindly following whatever the latest fitness influencer says will melt belly fat. Here's the truth, you're targeting the wrong problem. The skinny fat physique really isn't more of a fat problem as it is a muscle problem. Yes, you have plenty of excess body fat, but the real issue at hand is the lack of muscle mass underneath that fat. That's what I learned during my transformation, and it completely changed my approach. Think about it this way. If you lost all of that body fat right now without developing any muscle underneath, how do you think that would look? You'd just be extremely skinny with no shape, and truth be told, you'd most likely look even worse than you do now. I wasted an entire year making this exact mistake. I dropped from 185 pounds down to 155 pounds before, and on top of that, I was doing cardio 6 days a week and eating anywhere between 12 to 1500 calories a day. And since I didn't focus as hard on weight training, the result was I looked like a skeleton with slightly less body fat. My arms got smaller, my chest disappeared, and I just felt weaker and exhausted all the time. So what actually matters then? Let me break down the three critical factors that took my physique from skinny fat to lean and muscular. And they're all equally important, so make sure you stay until the end of the video. Want to know the single factor that creates 80% of your visible transformation? It's not doing more cardio, it's not eating less calories, it's weightlifting. This is the absolute foundation, and if you get nothing else from this video, just understand this. Building muscle will make the most dramatic difference to a skinny fat physique. Everything else is secondary. But here's the biggest mistake you're probably making with your training approach. You don't need to lift 5, 6, or 7 days a week. And I used to fall for this trap too, thinking more was always better. I designed this 6-day program hitting every muscle group with excess volume. I was doing endless isolation exercises, and you know what happened? I probably lasted a good 2 to 3 weeks before my recovery stopped keeping up, especially being in a deficit. And because of that, my body was fatigued, my joints were hurting all the time, my sleep was trash. I dreaded going to the gym. Simply put, I couldn't be bothered to work out anymore. What's the better solution then? Well, it's to be more strategic with programming your training and choose a split with far fewer days that you could actually recover from. And if you do this correctly, you won't have to sacrifice training quality at all. This is where the full body workout split comes in. And this is the training protocol that every single guy with a skinny fat physique should be using. The full body split allows you to train just 2 to 3 times per week. So going forward, don't let anybody trick you into thinking that you have to train 5 to 6 days per week because more volume is key. I'll show you exactly how you can make incredible progress just training 2 days per week. Here's why this changed everything for me. I went from dreading my 6 weekly workouts to actually looking forward to both of my sessions. I had lasting energy for each workout. Because of the gaps in between my training, I recovered properly. And most importantly, I was able to stick with it for months instead of being burnt out after 2 to 3 weeks. The full body split lets you train every muscle group twice per week while having more than enough time to recover in between sessions. It gives you massive flexibility to choose the muscle groups that you want to emphasize, as you're able to change the workout split on a week-to-week basis if needed. And the best part is you could do this without having to add more days. As a beginner with a skinny fat physique, you're going to take a little bit longer to recover anyways, so training twice per week ensures you have enough rest periods to train well and recover even better. So what exercises should you be doing to accelerate your progress? Well, unlike other splits, you don't need to be blasting isolation work on a regular basis. Exercises like lateral raises, rear delt flies, and leg extensions all have their place, but for now, forget about them. Your compound movements going forward should be exercises like squats, deadlifts, chest presses, overhead presses, lat pull downs, and rows. These movements give you the most amount of training stimulus while using the least amount of volume. Because of this, they're the most effective movements for training twice a week while building the most amount of muscle mass, and you'll also gain plenty of strength along the way. I remember when I finally simplified my workouts to focus on these basics. My bench press went up from 135 to 185 in just a few months. My squat jumped from 135 to 225 even faster. And for my physique, I actually saw the transformation I wanted because I started focusing on the movements that were going to get me there. When you're starting out, you can get away with just training these compound movements and nothing else. You'll save hours per week on training time, all without compromising any of your progress. So once you've got your training dialed in, what's the second factor that'll accelerate your transformation? And this is where most people get confused when addressing the skinny fat issue. They think because they need to build muscle, they need to eat in a calorie surplus, which conventionally, that is how you build muscle, but when you're skinny fat, you play by a different set of rules for now. The truth is, you can build a ton of muscle while in a calorie deficit, and being a beginner plays a great role in that. Building muscle is a new stimulus for you, and your body has excess body fat it could use for energy while losing fat and gaining muscle. Sure, you would technically build more muscle in a surplus, but the goal here is to lose body fat, not gain more of it, which you would do in that surplus. This is why you should be in a moderate calorie deficit. But here's the critical part, and most guys get this wrong at first. You don't need to slash your calories in half and cry about eating plain chicken breast and steamed vegetables. A small calorie deficit is all you need. I recommend 500 under what it takes to maintain your current weight, and then adjusting as time goes on. But it's super sustainable because 500 calories under doesn't necessarily mean less food. It just means making better food choices. Let me give you an example with my own transformation. I used to have a bowl of whey protein, oats, cream of wheat, and whole milk with a large macchiato for breakfast. That was easily 600 to 700 calories, and it left me absolutely starving just a couple hours later. So after programming my meals for volume and protein, I switched to 2 scrambled eggs, 4 egg whites, some turkey bacon, a side of fruit, and a black coffee. Same breakfast timing, but more food volume, way more filling, and only 400 calories and 35 grams of protein. I actually felt satiated until lunch because of the excess protein and fiber. That's the secret. If you focus on foods that are high in volume, high in protein, but low in calories, maintaining a deficit in the long term becomes effortless. And if you need a free meal plan to make that transformation even easier, join my school community, Muscle Truth University, with the link below, and send me a DM introducing yourself. We'll get to making that meal plan for you as soon as possible. But speaking of foods, what should you actually be eating? Whole foods are key, so stock your kitchen with high quality sources like meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits, and low-fat yogurt. These foods are high in protein and nutrients, highly satiating, and allow you to eat in a calorie deficit without having to starve yourself because of their quality and because of their macros. To make this even easier, try cutting down on your sugar intake and ultra-processed foods. No specific food can stop you from losing fat or store even more fat. It's all calories in versus calories out. But the problem with ultra-processed foods is a lot of them aren't as satiating, so you're battling hunger more frequently when you decide to consume more of them. You're essentially playing your deficit on hard mode when you have no reason to be. There's no magical property about whole foods that makes you lose more weight when you eat them, but nobody wants to starve while they're on a cut. So high satiety makes the process way more bearable in the long term. On top of satiety, I also noticed I had a huge increase in energy once I switched to a whole food diet. I was also sleeping way better at night, and my mid-afternoon crashes were gone. Because I ate the same thing every day, my energy levels stayed stable all day, every day. I had better workouts, better recovery, and clearer thinking, which allowed me to make better decisions. Not only is it super simple to get your diet in order, but everything in your life changes for the better once you do. You can figure out all your specific details by calculating your maintenance calories online using a calculator. I've gone ahead and linked my favorite one below so you could use it for yourself. Make sure you always set it to inactive at first so you don't overestimate what you need to eat. Then just subtract 500 calories from that maintenance number, or follow the analysis on what to eat for losing a pound a week. Just remember that as you lose weight, you'll also need to eat less calories, so be sure to go back to that website to update your maintenance calories from time to time. But what about macros? Should you be tracking everything obsessively? Here's my approach. Protein is the only macro that truly matters for this transformation. I recommend you should be eating at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. You can always go as high as 1.3 grams if you're extremely active or having a hard time staying full in between meals. If you have a skinny fat physique, that range is going to be more than enough to support building new lean muscle tissue or maintaining where you're at while losing body fat. And now to get to the main question, should you be tracking food forever? Absolutely not. Now, I would recommend tracking for at least 1 week until you get your macro and calorie targets on point. Then you could just stop tracking because it isn't sustainable to log every single meal for the rest of your life. It's a massive pain that you just want to stop doing at the earliest convenience possible. That's why it's so important to eat the same few meals throughout this entire process. It eliminates the guesswork once you get going. Do it for a week, dial everything in, learn what your meals look like, and then forget about it. Once you're eating the same foods in the same volumes every day, all while meal prepping to make the process easier, you'll know you're hitting all of your targets daily without the tedious tracking. So you got your training and nutrition sorted, but what's the third and final factor that ties all of this together? You don't need to spend an hour a day running on the treadmill like a starving hamster. A daily movement, specifically your step count, is a complete game changer for body recomposition. If you're super busy, all you need to do is just move a little bit more throughout your day as a whole. An amazing starting point is just 8,000 steps a day. Getting your steps up throughout the day will burn additional calories without increasing your hunger, and it won't interfere with your recovery either. Unlike crazy cardio, it keeps your energy high all day. And if you're incorporating some mid to high intensity cardio here and there, it'll make sure your cardiovascular health stays in check. The reason this is such a game changer is because daily steps are the definition of low effort but high reward. 8,000 steps only takes about 45 minutes of walking, and even if you don't have time to dedicate a 45-minute block to getting your steps in, you can make some changes throughout your day to make sure hitting 8,000 steps is an effortless process. Here's what worked for me. When I go to the store, I'll park as far away as possible instead of circling around for a spot. That way I maximize the amount of steps from my car to the store and then back to my car when I'm done. I'll even do a couple extra laps around the store if I have time. If you're in an environment with an escalator or elevator, just take the stairs every day. It's not much on its own, but with everything else involved, it adds up quickly. Even when you're at home for the day, just walk around your block while you're on the phone. And if you don't have any phone calls planned, just listen to a podcast or some music. And finally, while you're at work, use your lunch breaks to take up to 15-minute walks. That act alone will shave about 33% of your total walk time needed to hit that 8K steps. But when it's time to do traditional cardio, should you just be running or cycling for hours? My stance on sustainable cardio is simple. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. If you could find cardio you actually enjoy and can sustain, then I absolutely recommend you go for it every once in a while. But the real truth is, cardio itself is not a requirement for losing that skinny fat physique. You don't need it for fat loss, and you don't need it for body recomposition. Hitting your step count should be your main focus, but my recommendation for cardio is to just do a sport or activity you genuinely enjoy. For example, if you like to box, even when you're by yourself, you can get away with a solid cardio session just hitting a heavy bag or shadow boxing. If you prefer a team sport and like to play basketball with friends, you could also do that. You don't need to add boring treadmill sessions or cardio classes unless you enjoy doing them, and we're going to do them anyways. So you can get your daily steps in, focus on your nutrition, and focus on full body weight training, and have every resource that you need to make body recomposition possible. But once you tie all of this together, here's the question that everyone asks. How long is this going to take? I realized that even though I covered a few points, it all still sounds like a lot. However, when you look at all these individually, they're all really small changes. These aren't drastic, unsustainable differences that are being made to your lifestyle. But here's the most important part that nobody wants to hear. This isn't going to take a month or 2 months. This transformation takes real time. Depending on where you're starting, this is a process that could take up to a year or even more. So you have to learn to fall in love with the process, the good and the bad. Delayed gratification is going to be your best friend here, and you need to have that mindset in place day one. I'll be honest, using my own time. After my first month or two, I didn't see any visible changes. But by month 4, I looked in the mirror one day and I saw the transformation that I was visualizing when I first started. But it definitely didn't happen after that first month. By month 6, people that hadn't seen me in a while were commenting on how different I looked. And by month 9, I completely transformed from skinny fat to lean and muscular. I wouldn't consider myself done, and I'll probably never be done with working on my physique because I genuinely enjoy the process. But after that first transformation, I look completely different from where I started. And that's what I'm trying to preach here. You don't need to be a bodybuilder to build a desirable body. These are the 3 factors that you need to focus on summarized. Weightlifting with a sustainable full body split focused on compound movements, a high protein whole food diet eating in a moderate calorie deficit, and then tying everything together with getting your steps in and being patient throughout the entire process. With the right plan and execution, you can transform your physique no matter where you're starting from. But no 2 plans look the same for anyone. So if you're struggling with your skinny fat physique and your goal is to lean down while building muscle and then stay lean for life, but you have no idea where to start, you can book a free private one-on-one call with me using the link below. It's just for me to see if I can help you, and if I can, we'll come up with a game plan that could be either implemented yourself or working one-on-one with me. I look forward to helping you achieve the transformation of your dreams.